Jallen up against Oliver Rochin.
Yep, excited to see these two players going at it. Oliver is going to be playing the Lugia Archeops, a classic deck that we've seen over and over again. Obviously, it's a third of the pool, so expect to see plenty of this deck, especially as we move on into day 2. And Jeremy, he says, oh, Lugia. Well, I'm playing Frank the Tank Part 2. And that's right, he's on Eternatus VMAX featuring that Galarian Wheezing to shut off those abilities.
Now, we always call it the Lugia V-Star deck, but Archeops is the card that makes this deck function. And what does Archeops not like? Well, when its ability gets shut off, and that is exactly what Galarian Wheezing does with its neutralizing gas ability. The coin flip is going to be pretty big here, but one of the things that is not mentioned a lot is that Zigzagoon, or rather, a lot of these Dark-type Pokemons, that Coughing does have the Ascension attack on it, which allows it to evolve turn 1. So really, these first couple of turns, they're going to be very important in this matchup.
Yeah, this is definitely big, especially the early turns here to see what these players have. So definitely do not want to blink, as we could see a huge opening here for honestly either player. As Jeremy gets that opening set up, it is terrifying as a Lugia player to see that Galarian Wheezing on the other side.
Yep, so again, important in this matchup. These Pokemon are very crucial with how these players start and how they do it. And again, to note, this isn't the quad Galarian Wheezing deck, so once neutralizing gas is in play, it has to be active to shut off abilities. So that is very important to note as the prize cards come into play. Things to note, some Archeops pieces, something else being in the prizes, but I mean, this is what I love to see. Just standard prizes, nothing special. We get to play some true, honest Pokemon.
That's what I'm looking forward to. Yeah, this is going to be a great match here. Looking to see which of these players will be able to lock up 3 match points to get themselves into day 2 here.
Let's get into this matchup. Let's see how this goes. Will Jeremy Jallen avenge Chip's loss from the Arlington Regional Championships and make it into day 2? Or will it be Oliver overcoming one of our fellow co-casters to make it in to the second day of competition? Here we go. Let's get it kicked off. Round number 9 here at San Diego Regionals.
It looks like Jeremy Jallen is going to be starting things off for us here. And starting off with that Eternatus V, so not the worst Pokemon to see, but of course, love to see that Coughing there for him. Could lead to some shenanigans early on here.
Already has the Darkness Energy in hand. Can choose where to attach that. I'm sure it will go on to the Wheezing. It does have a great attack as well. Severe Poison can put 4 damage counters instead of 1 on Poison Pokemon, which it does poison. So we will actually see the switch get played prematurely. Eternatus is a little bit hefty to move. It is a 2 retreat cost. So just in case it gets martied out of the hand, maybe wants to avoid that. As Crobat, it was a good card already by itself, but ever since it saw its entrance into Eternatus VMAX, it's been played as a 4 of them. Why wouldn't you when you get to utilize or sort of relive the old glory days of Rayquaza EX? Not as powerful, but still in a way.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about just playing that one down and not having an opportunity later on. You can play a bunch of these in this deck. You can fill the bench up to 8 now and have plenty of opportunities to use this Dark Asset ability.
And of course, Oliver starting things off just as you would with the Lugia deck, like anyone dreams, trying to find Archeops out of the deck and discard them so you can bring them back with Summoning Star. And while we talked about, of course, the Galarian Wheezing shutting off something like Primal Turbo Return, it also does shut off Summoning Star. So you kind of get through the ability lock 2 times, but usually, right, if you get through it just on that one turn where you can Summoning Star and Flood Energy, then things can get sort of problematic.
Right, yeah, it usually just comes down to if you can have an optimal turn where you're also probably going to have to be using some gusting effect as well, and that can be tricky, especially when you want to use Lumineon to go and find that supporter card. You just need a lot of cards in your hand at the right time.
So of course, like any good player, Oliver checking through the deck to make sure he's very aware of what cards are in the deck, what cards are prized, what cards are not accessed. We saw in that previous match how important it is to know your prizes because things like Radiant Charizard being the prize cards can be a very big deal. Luckily, gonna get the good news, nothing crazy is in the deck. Gonna grab Archeops out off of the Evolution Incense. As there are a few cards to look at, Quick Ball being the first one. Easy choice, of course, just to discard that Archeops. Have to wonder what Pokemon will get grabbed off this Quick Ball.
Yeah, the rest of the hand looks like it would probably lead to a Professor's Research on this following turn, and that's not exactly where you want to go because you're trying to set up that opportunity where you can use the gusting effect and then use your Summoning Star. You also only see the one Archeops so far. Is that something that you're also willing to commit to and just have that one Pokemon at that one time?
Soren Guru is great because it's going to be able to preserve some of these resources in the hand. Oliver, of course, needs the bench space for Archeops. probably looking for something like a Boss's Orders to gust around. That neutralizing gas ability only works when the Pokemon is active. That's when you play Boss's Orders and you switch it up, it does play around that. So it has to be what you're thinking about. If you're Oliver, Primate Wisdom, most likely going to preserve one of these energy cards. I think they both have their effects here, but probably Powerful Energy in combination with something like Choice Bell is still short to take the knockout on Eternatus. Eternatus is tied for the Pokemon with the most HP.
Looks like Jeremy was upset that he grabbed one of his coins instead of another one. Say, hey, buddy, those are mine.
And a great card there off the Primate Wisdom. Able to grab Ultra Ball, just get rid of some of these pieces. Not really valuing the Radiant Charizard. It is a good card to take these late knockouts onto Crobat, but it can be a little bit tough when you need the bench space early on, and it's way worth discarding that to guarantee yourself the second Archeops in the discard pile.
Yeah, this is fantastic. You're going to be able to have all of those cards exactly where you need them, refill, draw a brand new hand here, and then next turn that lines up to, especially if you find that gusting effect, then you can get that summoning star, have that huge turn of abilities, and not really have to worry about what Jeremy's doing on the other side.
I think just debating whether or not to attach this energy, choosing not to attach the Lugia, maybe prioritizing those energies late wear, but I have to imagine, would you in that position play the energy down, or is there a better energy you're looking for? I guess maybe capture energy is good?
Yeah, it's just capture energy, and sure enough, it pays off here as the 7th card drawn. I don't think that I would have, I think I probably would have played the energy and just said, I'm not lucky enough to grab one of the captures, but he does play 4, and it looks like it's going to pay off there.
Yeah, and it's good to get an Lugia down because we haven't really talked about Eternatus as a card yet, but back in the days that we didn't have actual organized events. We saw it a little bit in Players Cup 3 and Players Cup 4 when this deck was at the forefront of the meta, that this deck on turn 2 can threaten a lot. When you have all your bench Pokemon in play, after you've dealt with Weezing, you have to stare down this 3-price, 340 HP Pokemon that does 270 damage. It's a lot to handle.
Yeah, especially when you know that Jeremy can do that pretty quickly. It's, playing these cards like the Crobat, you're just refilling the hand over and over again, drawing so many cards. It's pretty easy to fill up that board and eventually take these knockouts. Lugia only has the 220 hit points.
And starting to turn off right away with those awesome new Galarian Weezing from the Play Pokemon promo packs that are at new local stores. So I'd like to see Jeremy getting his hands on some of those new cards. The energy attachment also going down to Eternatus. So this is sort of the game plan with the deck, right? Start with a Weezing lock and then build the rest of your board up.
We are going to see that Crobat come down. Going to grab one of those coins there, show that the ability is being used for the turn, and this is just what the deck does. You draw a bunch of dark Pokemon and you try to get them into play.
And it's even better with the Eternatus VMAX Eternal Zone ability. Allows it to have 8 Pokemon in play, but Jeremy really didn't find much off of this. Has 5 cards, has maybe Boss's Orders to play potentially. Can maybe bring one of these Pokemon up and start utilizing the Severe Poison attack, but I think Jeremy's more than content to just, this is his game plan. Sit here and utilize the Galarian Weezing, try to take some prize cards, and what is action over on Oliver's side? Wow, there's 5 energy cards in this hand. There is absolutely nothing going on. Can play Bird Keeper, but what does that do for you in this position?
Not much. That is, yeah, not a very strong hand. You can definitely draw a couple additional cards. Maybe try doing something here. You can read the wind.
Yeah, and I like this capture attachment to the active because it means next turn if you find Lugia V-Star, you can be able to evolve, heal the poison out, and utilize the double turbo energy. However, with the Temple of Sinnoh, not able to search the deck out with capture energy, and double turbo energy will only provide 1 energy. And this is exactly what you want to see if you're Jeremy, right? You poison the active Pokemon, you deal some damage to it slowly, and it's also the worst feeling for Oliver, right? Because he's just sitting here being like, can I play my game? Can I use my broken ability, please?
Yeah, and Oliver did find the Serena off of those 3 cards from reading the wind, so we'll at least have an opportunity to do something. But Jeremy's not going to give any way of doing that. Just going to go with the Boss's Orders right now and bring up the other Lugia, really banking on this Temple of Sinnoh, doing a lot of work here.
Serena's great, but when you can only discard 3 cards from your hand, I don't know if Oliver has a lot he can be working with, but Boss's Orders is a great way to, sure, you take the poison damage off, so essentially save this Lugia from taking 40 damage, but there is, of course, that threat of Lugia V-Star plus Counter Stadium plus double turbo energy. So we will just see another severe poison. This also weakens up the Lugia later on in the game, makes it easier to knock out. So, I mean, Jeremy, nothing is really happening. It's just this Weezing sits here and it poisons. But despite all of that, it's winning for Jeremy in this position because he blocks every ability over on Oliver's side.
Yep. Oliver does have the opportunity now, could bring up one of those V Pokemon and at least avoid the neutralizing gas for a minute now, which is exactly what he needs to do. The problem is you don't really deal with the threat in the Weezing, but maybe you get enough energies down to not have to worry about that. And if you have 2 attackers ready to go, certainly you'd think that that's going to be enough to handle what Jeremy's got right now.
Yeah, and in this position too, you can go ahead and put yourself into a solid spot by just accelerating so many energy into play. Has the Ultra Ball already put 2 of the Archeops in the discard pile? You heal the poison off, you take the first 2 prizes, and really at this spot, like Jeremy does have access to a powerful attack in the Eternatus VMAX, the Dread End attack. The problem is there are so many cards in Oliver's deck that are so good, but mainly the main one is that amazing rare, or rather that amazing rare Yveltal, because that Pokemon loves to take knockouts on these 3-price Pokemon because it just trades so well into them.
Yeah, I think Jeremy has a great understanding right now. He got the poison damage down onto 2 of those Lugias right now, and that means that eventually if he does get that Eternatus VMAX rolling, he can Dread End for the maximum 240 damage, knock out both of those Pokemon right now as they only have the 280 hit points. Lines up perfectly, and the problem right now is that Jeremy just hasn't found his evolution. He's been stuck with the 5 bench and has no way to really continue to build on that.
We'll at least get the open bench slot off of this Pokemon being knocked out. Can maybe utilize 1 more of those Crobat, but already down 2 of the 4 Crobat. You really want to have those for later on in the game. Oliver's doing exactly what he wants. From when I blanked there for the Serena, I was like, oh, he can draw cards. But of course, the main reason it's being played is because it could gust Pokemon up.
I thought you'd get there eventually.
A little slow. You know, it's round 9. I'm tired. We're getting through it. But this is a matchup that's big for both of these players. As, I mean, if you're Jeremy, this is not what you want to see early on, right? You want to just be taking at least a few prizes so that Eternatus can just play the game for you, and you essentially start with like a head start essentially in this matchup.
Right. Well, Oliver's going to continue with the game plan here. Just get some of these energies down onto the Lugia V-Star. Yeah, they only provide 1 colorless right now, but that's actually going to be enough here for the Eternatus to be able to take the knockout. It only has 220 hit points, lines up perfectly with the Tempest Dive.
Doing enough damage can also remove this Temple of Sinnoh. So right now, Powerful Energy and Vigor Energy not active, but by discarding the Stadium, they'll be online and active for next turn, which means this Lugia will go up to essentially 310 HP. We'll be left with 270, so still imperfect math for a Dread End to take a knockout, but still a lot of work for Jeremy. There's no energy on either of these Eternatus in play. So we'll see what ends up happening, and I think Jeremy understands that I have to deal with this threat now at this point. I have no other option when it comes to my place. Does have the energy switch in hand. That's piece number 1. Can move the energy off the Scalarian Weezing to the Eternatus. Needs to find a way to get the Eternatus VMAX into play, and that is the key to opening up the 8 bench Pokemon to max out your damage. You can utilize Crobat to draw cards. That's the thing that's missing here for Jeremy.
Yep, and we see plenty of cards that can be played right now. There's a switch as well. You can use the energy switch too, and right now clearly could go and grab that Crobat to draw some additional cards. So could thin the hand down pretty well, and then you're just hoping to find the right Pokemon at the right time. It's a little unfortunate that you have to throw away that Coughing, as that would have been a pretty solid addition to the bench eventually, but just can't find the Eternatus VMAX yet.
Missing piece. Crobat will be able to fill the hand up quite a bit. We'll see how much Jeremy can thin. I see a lot of dark Pokemon in the hand. Playing the switch. Yep. Smart play just to thin that card out of the hand. Can play the energy switch now onto the freshly promoted Eternatus. Has the attachment from hand too, and it looks like we're going to be seeing a dark asset for 4. Has 2 dark Pokemon, so if we see the Eternatus VMAX, that can fill the bench up. 1, 2, do we see it? No! Does not find it. Has Avery in hand, so can force the Oranguru, but I mean, that's the Pokemon I feel like you discard in this position regardless, but right. You have to ask yourself, what supporter card here is the best option? You've got Serena to draw cards, you've got Judge, and you've got Avery. What would you pick in this position?
Yeah, it's tricky because I don't know if the Judge does too much for you right now. Maybe the Serena lets you see the most cards, at least. You're not shuffling in some additional cards. So I think that's probably the out you use here.
And you're drawing the same amount of cards as you would with Avery with the way that Jeremy is sort of rearranging these cards. But I guess there is a downside if you discard your opponent's bench Lugia. While they would lose those energies, they are essentially healing the damage off of that Pokemon and getting it out of play. And here we go. 3 cards. Do we see Eternatus VMAX? The last card also finds Quick Ball. That's the math needed to get the knockout. Does have Choice Belt, though, so it's already safe. But, man, that's the card Jeremy needed to stay in this game.
Well, Jeremy is not cheating, ladies and gentlemen. This is actually part of the game. You can go ahead and add to the bench spaces here with the Eternal Zone ability. And that is going to be exactly what the doctor ordered, even adding an additional energy onto the field with the Galarian Moltres V.
I'm glad you clarified, because without context, you just threw it out there.
What's happening?
What's happening? What's happening? But yes, feels like Skyfield is back, even if for a short time. 8 bench Pokemon being allowed in play. Eternatus dealing 300 total damage, more than enough to knock out this Lugia.
Jeremy, we need more bench space. Figure it out.
The camera can't handle all this power. So believe it or not, I believe there's 1 Pokemon off screen, so we'll be dealing enough damage to take the knockout.
Yeah, no, this is the 7, so we're there now.
If you're in this position, how are you setting your Pokemon up? What is your bench looking like?
It always goes 5-3. I've seen some people go 4-4, but I think you stick with the standard bench and then you make the mini bench underneath.
See, I'm symmetrical. In my mind, I'm like, I just need to keep it symmetrical. But you know what, 5-3, the way you explained it, I can get behind
Especially with
that.
the round table, like
Yeah,
you run out of room down there.
That's fair. I can get behind that. You know what, that's fair. But looks like there will just be 7 bench Pokemon in play. Put the Choice Belt, 270 damage. Exact math. To take the knockout, Jeremy's going to answer things up, but listen, Oliver is left with 2 energy in play on a Lugia, full freedom to use whatever abilities are possible, and is attacking into a 3 prize Pokemon. I think this can only end poorly. So many things can go wrong, especially when you find that amazing rare Yveltal.
Yeah, I think if we saw maybe the Lugia as the promotion, we'd be a little more worried just because you have that built-in retreat already ready to go. Now you've got to also retreat the Archeops along with having the necessary energies to attack with Yveltal. Not sure if they're all there right now, and I think we're going to get our first peek here.
So there's the 2 Aurora and the double turbo, so that's big. Can accelerate all of those out of the deck. If there's another Aurora in there as well, that will be enough. Can put 2 Aurora on right now, attach manually to the active, and that will be the energies necessary. So we'll see if Oliver understands what the position looks like at this point. But yeah, because there's no other way, because you need to get full maximum energy essentially off of this. So that is the question. What do you accelerate to? Does Oliver see this line? You have to imagine when the knockout's there, when the prizes are there, when the bone is right in front of you to get, you have to just go for it.
Yeah, no, this is a huge commitment, but definitely a strong play here, lining up the amazing destruction. Going to have the retreat available in hand, and then you're really just looking for 1 more prize card at this point, and any of those energies could help you along the way. I think we see the Heat Fire energy in there as well, so maybe that in combination with Radiant Charizard or something like that. But I think we saw that gone pretty early.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm in Jeremy's position, like, this is a terrible situation. This is not where you want to be. I don't know if I'd again, Weezing can just win games out of nowhere, but you can't Weezing into this Yveltal because the Yveltal will just knock you out next turn.
Yep.
So what is your realistic play? How are you taking 4 prizes? You're staring down a Yveltal. You're about to stare down a Lugia on the bench that only needs 2 more energy and boss to knock out 1, 2, 3, like plenty of Pokemon on your board, almost everything. Like, what do you do? And Jeremy smartly just
What do you do?
I didn't have to explain it more. I think Jeremy got the memo. He's going to scoop things up, and we're going to game 2.
There we go. Yep. Only down 16 minutes so far, but already Oliver up 1-0 here in round number 9. Fantastic way to start things off for him. Up against a matchup that can be kind of tricky, but Jeremy just wasn't able to find that Eternatus VMAX, fill the bench early on, had to slow down a little bit at an awkward point, and that just gave a little too much of the advantage over to Oliver.
And Weezing is great when it sticks, and when your opponent has outs to Weezing, it's not great. And this is why this card isn't just played in every single deck, because on paper, you just put Weezing out into play turn 1 and set your board up as you would, like this Eternatus deck can do better. It's the best usage of Weezing because it can set up so well with Weezing and just do its thing and then essentially say, okay, I've taken my 3 prize cards, I get to play with a head start, and I just am a deck that can one-hit knock out most V-Star Pokemon, right? So I'll win the game, even if I sacrifice a 3 prize Pokemon. But the problem is, when players just have the boss's orders turn 2 or have the gusting card turn 1, the deck just can't win. It struggles because at that point, now you're playing the even game with your opponent when your whole game plan is just, I'm going to cheese my opponent in the early game, they're not going to have it, and then I'm just going to win.
Yeah, I mean, you can see a world where Jeremy just gets everything down, has the judge, and then eventually brings up Eternatus VMAX and just runs over everything that was never set up and then to start things off. And that can be a very quick game. So there's potential here for either the match to finish in either direction. Plenty of time for both these players. I'm excited to see what we have here in game number 2. What do you think? Do we think you're going to see the Galarian Weezing take things here and bring us to game 3?
You know, if there's a time for a game 3, it's right now. I mean, I want Jeremy to be here. It can't be 2 casters falling to the round 9 curse. It can't work that way. But again, these players are going to show us what they've got. They both wanted, I'm sure, just as badly to make day 2 at a regional. If you want to be able to play, you booked your trip for 3 days, you might as well be here and play in the second day of competition. Yeah,
this is a deck that Jeremy believes in. Of course, Frank Persic is the owner of the deck. We pay homage to him as every opportunity that we can, and Jeremy has believed in this deck for a while now. He's been playing this at all the regionals that we've seen him attend, besides the opener where he played Regigigas, and that didn't exactly work out, but he does enjoy this deck, and he's made day 2 before, and he's trying to do that once more.
As we're getting things set up nice and thoroughly shuffled as we'll get into our game number 2. I mean, there's a lot of factors that can go in. After some prize cards I've seen today, I think anything is possible. When I look at when they show us the glass panel and I see the cards come down, as Oliver will go ahead and draw up, see what is in this hand. Looks like no basic Pokemon. So
this is a strategy too, you know. You just mulligan for 45 minutes and you win.
I mean, we've spent 5-6 minutes now shuffling up for the second game, and listen, the thing that I want to see the least between both of these players, like, of course I don't want to see either player lose, right? Because I want to see these players play it out, but is a tie in the end of the game, and that's where things get complicated. And yeah, I'm not going to go into details, but anyways, Jeremy's prize card's not too terrible. It does play a very thick line of that Galarian Weezing, so no big deal that a 1/1 line is prize there. It could get weird on like an Ascension turn if you don't have access to one and you draw into a few of them, but it's a very niche scenario.
Well, Jeremy's going to try to avoid that. He's also going to give the deck a good shuffle now. Hopefully give his opponent at least one basic Pokemon so we can get things rolling here. And that is a basic Pokemon on the very last card.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be another mulligan, but it actually ended up to be Oliver's worst starter in the deck. It's either that or Pumpkaboo. I still think Lumineon is has to be the worst Pokemon you could start, but
it can go back in the deck.
It can.
Maybe in this matchup, it's not very good.
Important to note that 2 Aurora energies being prized means that Yveltal might not be an early option. Actually, 4 of the 6 prize cards here are energy. You know how much Lugia wants those energies to retreat, go into the attacker that they choose. Jeremy's got a good start. Hiding Darkness energy on that Galarian Moltres means it will be easy switchings as we see a Radiant Pokemon we don't see in a lot of decks. The Hisuian Sneasler allows Pokemon that are poisoned to take 2 more damage counters in between turns due to poison. It's here just because not only is it a dark Pokemon, sure, if you in any other deck, there's better Radiant Pokemon to play, but you have to have your bench be all dark Pokemon for Eternal Zone to work. And Sneasler works great at being able to try to knock these Pokemon out quicker, right? I gotta say quicker with this Galarian Weezing.
Yeah, I mean it does the trick. The Poison Peak can certainly help out in some of the math, and maybe not in this matchup particularly, but certainly you can at least speed the game up a little bit, and Jeremy's looking to speed up as much as possible. He's lost 20 minutes so far, and he's just trying to play Pokemon.
I want to see some good Pokemon action, so I'm all for it. Gets the Coughing down, has Quick Ball as well. We haven't seen Crobat come down yet. That's always a great way to fill the cards up in the hand. Also, of course, going to want to get that Eternatus down. You want to increase your bench size to 8, so we'll always see that come down as well. So I have to wonder here, last cards in hand, I could play the switch to draw an extra card, but no, it just makes sense to Ultra Ball. We will see the Crobat come down to fill this hand back up to 6, but I mean, this is the this is the checklist for Jeremy, right? Find Coughing, find Eternatus turn 1, attach an energy, and then next turn is where, okay, gonna get Weezing out, do what I have to do. It's pretty cookie cutter with what Jeremy wants to do. Essentially gets every deck right now in the format.
Yeah, I think there was some debate from Jeremy if he wanted to just wait, and then whatever card he draws, he just Ultra Balls away, and then he can get down the Weezing or the Eternatus VMAX, whichever he chooses, and then go for the Judge and start to get aggressive. But I think this makes a lot of sense. You just continue to see more cards, get closer to the Eternatus VMAX and the Weezing, and if you get the full combo going, you're in a pretty good spot.
Has Ultra Ball for next turn. That will open up plenty of options with Eternal Zone. So Oliver's turn will begin. Does have a very solid hand, so the Evolution Incense can grab the second Archeops piece. Already has Professor's Research in the hand. Often you just play it first, and this is smart. Just take a look through the deck. You're going to play the Quick Ball anyways and discard the Archeops, so might as well get a good idea and understanding of the deck. Make sure that every card is understood and analyzed. You want to make sure you're not missing any pieces. We saw how big Yveltal was, so I'm sure that will be checked. However, the fact that 2 Aurora energies are pretty prized, as this energy is just playing a Heat Fire energy as well. So that means we'll need every single energy that provides a different color of energy in the deck to be able to attack with Yveltal. And we saw that there was needed to be an energy discarded earlier on, and even with early research and early things like even Serena to discard and draw some cards, can get tricky.
Yeah, that means maybe we see the Oranguru as an early choice, just as a Pokemon that could potentially help out in situations like that. But obviously, you need to find that Lugia here first to get things rolling. We do see the evolution instance in hand as well, so that could grab the other Archeops. And you get all of these cards into the discard pile on the opening turn. That could lead to that potential big summoning star turn with a boss effect, or that Serena, of course.
So that's a choice. Of course, going to grab Archeops. Want to get both of those in the discard pile. Does have the powerful Colorless Energy, which is a great card in this deck, and a card that didn't see any play, really, until Lugia was released. And then people are like, oh, wait, this card exists, right? I can just have an extra 80 damage in my deck at any point I want.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Definitely a solid card. Has Research in hand, so see if anything else can get played out. Did find the Lugia V off of the Quick Ball, so that can see a few of these cards. We saw Oliver choose to just discard the Powerful Energy early on. Could have maybe grabbed, of course it's a little risky, but if you grab the Oranguru, you were going to want Boss's Orders next turn. You could preserve and guarantee that. However, did draw into the Serena, so that is a potential play for sure as well. There's plenty of other really solid cards. Doesn't even need to utilize his Evolution Incense to find Archeops. There's already 2 in the discard pile.
And I guess the only thing that we see is did not find an energy, which is pretty unusual, but knowing the prize cards, at least that does make a little more sense.
Yeah, so interesting choice too. You're already down 4 energy in the prize cards to not attach the energy. But again, we saw how important capture energy was that turn to get the extra Lugia down that was able to be pivoted into off of switches. So again, if it worked game 1, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, it definitely could work out here. I guess the one thing that you do have to think about is it's really hard for Jeremy to potentially take a knockout on a Lugia, so the second one isn't exactly so crucial. We do see that it's just, there are no dark energies in the discard pile just yet, so finding an opportunity for Galarian Moltres along with Energy Switch and all those cards in combination to eventually take a knockout with Eternatus VMAX doesn't seem too likely.
Yeah, so Oliver's an interesting card in hand in that Collapse Stadium. A Collapse Stadium is a really good card to remove some of your own Pokemon, to limit your opponent from setting up. But, I mean, Eternatus wasn't very popular when this card came out, but Collapse Stadium eats on Eternatus. It destroys its bench. It cuts its bench in half. And I'm not sure that was revealed at all game number 1. Jeremy might not be expecting it. Of course, it is pretty common for it to occur in or be played in this deck, but sometimes it's just players are cutting it now because they want to play new cards instead.
Well, could lead to Jeremy having to make a difficult decision later on in this match. We do see that Dark Energy added to the discard pile now, and that could lead to some acceleration here. It just depends on what Jeremy decides to value throughout this matchup. It's obviously he's got that Moltres already ready to go, so going to go with the Crobat here to draw some additional cards, and we'll see what else can move around in his hand. Yeah, the Ultra Ball, huge here.
So choosing to not hold the other Ultra Ball, there was the potential to maybe discard the energy, but you're going to want that on the Coughing anyways. Ultra Ball would guarantee you, and you still have some energy cards in deck, and Energy Switch now that you can utilize the Dire Flame Wings ability on the Galarian Moltres V. That's a potential option, but why not just guarantee the Weezing, guarantee the energy attachment, and just be okay? Because I forgot, the Quick Ball did grab Crobat, so everything's taken care of. The energy attachment could come down, Evolution as well, and a fresh 6 cards. So this is what you want to see again if you're Jeremy, but even though you had perfect cards in the first game, as we've seen, things can still go south.
Yep, no high five, but we are going to see the Dark Asset for 6 right now. I guess it might not work with the situation at hand. This is pretty do or die.
If I was in like a win-in to like top cut of regional, my opponent played down Professor's Research and said, like, Professor's Research high five me. I'm a nice person, right? I'm pretty. Yeah, I don't know if I'm high-fiving him, man.
You don't leave him hanging. Come on.
Okay, if it's a brother, I can't leave him hanging. You're right. But we do see the Hiding Darkness Energy being so great in this deck to remove some of these more hefty retreat Pokemon, moving that Galarian Moltres V out of the active spot into Galarian Weezing. We are now in the neutralizing gas zone. No abilities over on Oliver's side. As the Force Seal Stone also comes down, and Jeremy really prioritizing a card here. What could he possibly be looking for on this turn?
Does he value the Temple of Sinnoh, perhaps? This is an interesting use, unless he's Oh, we haven't even seen a supporter for the turn.
I
It just feels like this turn has already been exactly what we needed, but sure enough, this is a great find.
This is a feeling I have not felt for a while because it's been a while since I've seen a turn of this, of just having these like super long turns where you're constantly searching. You're always playing Crowback.
He's already got the temple too if he wanted to play it, but he's actually going to hold on to it now. And that might be a nod to what you were talking about, just understanding that typically you are going to see at least one of those stadiums from the Lugia player. You just want to avoid the collapsed stadium, and sure enough, going to have that resource for later.
And even the most common attack right off the bat is Lugia just using Storm Dive to just go ahead or Tempest Dive rather, to just discard the Stadium card in play as well. Really wants to utilize that for a turn maybe where Yveltal could come into play and deal some damage. But there we go. Marnie in combination with Severe Poison, which was a big Marnie from Jeremy too, because there was a Serena in that hand, and this hand is not have anything going for it. You no longer can use things like Primate Wisdom, so that makes me wonder again on that turn. There was no energy down in the turn of this. There's a lot of cards your opponent needs to go boss knockout. Maybe the potential for Oranguru to guarantee that card on top. Though, at that point, Jeremy could have just grabbed Judge, and the situation would have probably just been the same. So.
Sure. Well, we are going to see Oliver getting to take use of the capture energy now. We did not see the temple played, so this effect is going to go find potentially one of these additional basic Pokemon. We said that the Oranguru would be a nice find. It's sure enough going to go right for that. And I'm excited to see what do you go for here? Is this an opportunity where you could potentially take the big knockout? I don't know if the cards are in the hand right now.
Yeah, and the problem is Oranguru was great last turn, but neutralizing gas is shutting it off, so it's unable to utilize its ability at all. I think at this point, if you're Oliver, you've got to wonder to yourself, like,
this hand,
it's not great. Nothing is happening here. You can Aurora Energy this turn, but the problem is you're just essentially giving up 2 free prize cards. This is exactly what Jeremy wants. You take this early prize lead, and then you can potentially swing in with your Pokemon later on in the game. He can still attack if he wants to. Nothing is happening here over on Oliver's side.
I guess the one thing that isn't working for Jeremy right now is the Radiant Hisuian Sneasler is accidentally doing too much damage. It's going to be knocked out going into his opponent's turn, which is a little frustrating, but I mean, we're taking prize cards. This is a better spot than last game.
I need to win a game of Pokemon. I'm taking prize cards as quickly as I possibly can. As we are just going to see the knockout, Severe Poison. Doesn't even need to utilize it again. It's already poison, taking 6 damage counters. And there is the Hisuian Sneasler's Poison Point coming into effect to take this knockout a turn early, essentially. And what does Oliver top deck for the turn? It's an Ultra Ball, which in most circumstances would be great, especially under ability lock. Oh, I'll just find Pumpkaboo. Right. Unfortunately, you are under the neutralizing gas ability lock, not just Path to the Peak.
Yeah,
but
it's time to read the wind and see if the rest of the deck will help out. And of course, it's always that last card finds that Serena, so at least we'll have something going on next turn. And this is a crucial spot here for Jeremy, also finding the big Parasol, so doesn't have to worry about the return Amazing Rare Yveltal taking a knockout.
So this is the question here for Jeremy. How do you play this turn out? Do you try to get aggressive and try to take prize cards? Do you play something like the Serena, dig heavily? You can get rid of a lot of these pieces in your hand. Or do you play something like the Judge? Your opponent just drew a bunch of cards and was disruptive, and this makes the most sense to me. Your opponent has plenty of cards in hand. You can reset them, but this is where Lugia V's first attack is actually so crucial, because every time you disrupt them, it's not like you're taking knockouts right away. If Galarian Weezing had a attack that did like 120 damage for like 2 energy, then the card would just be broken, right? Because it would lock you down and it would do stuff too much. But the fact that it's like a slow time bomb ticking attack, right? It slowly builds up, is big, because it does give you a little bit of flexibility when you're playing against it to try and draw out of these hands before your opponent takes these prize cards.
Yeah, well, I guess with the Hisuian Sneasler, you kind of almost do 120 damage. It just kind of builds up, but
yeah, it's so much. Actually, that card has helped so much too. It's like essentially you get an extra turn of Severe Poison between a turn.
Yeah.
Oh. But here we go. Looks like at this point, what are the 4 cards off the Judge? Does find Research, but no way to be able to boss his orders. Top deck also not helping out. Might be another turn of having to read the wind. Does have Evolution in sense. And what this could do, evolving, would remove the attack, but it does also stop the special condition as well.
Yeah, you don't get to read the wind later, and it's a bit awkward here. You don't really want to evolve until the turn where you're also going to be using that gusting effect. And every time that you use a Professor's Research, you have to be expecting Jeremy to dig a little bit deeper to go find a Judge or a Marnie.
Just have to assume this will be either one of the 2 cards, the 2 evolution cards in this deck, of course, Lugia or Archeops. At this point, Archeops there's one in the discard pile, so you can still get the second one. I believe we haven't even seen both hit the discard pile. Or I think they are, actually. Both of them are in there, so might as well not hurt to just go and grab this as well. We have to pay attention to the time, though. We're down to 17 minutes left in this round. Both of these players want to win. A tie doesn't really do either of them well. I mean, you do pick up a few points at a regional for going 5-2-2, but they want to play it out to go to day 2. I mean, if you're Oliver in this position, I mean, I would say do you consider scooping, but you're still so in this game because of the fact that Amazing Grady Veltal just swings prizes out of nowhere. You just halfway closer to winning the game just by using that one attack.
I think if the Galarian Weezing is able to move out of the active spot next turn and we see a knockout here on the Lugia, Oliver should just scoop because we see the Parasol down. It would have to be a lot of cards in combination in order to make this work. You'd have to have that Lost Vacuum as well to get the job done. And as you mentioned earlier, it takes every one of those special energies to get the job done, and we already see one being discarded right now by way of the Ultra Ball.
It doesn't even need to utilize the Galarian, the Eternus can utilize Galarian Moltres to take the knockout, and that way you force your opponent to also have boss's orders. As we are going to see the Echoing Horn fill the bench up to 8 Pokemon. That is sneaky, sneaky. Wow, I did not think I would see it this weekend, but hey, I'll check it off my bingo card as Research will draw 7 fresh new cards. Looking for something like the Boss's Orders or Serena for the following turn. Do not see it yet, of course. Can thin the hand out a little bit with Quick Ball. Try and draw some more cards with the Read the Wind attack. That's really all there is at this point. Still unable to get things going. Jeremy will have even more time to try and put together some prize cards. This Lugia will go up to 180 going back into Oliver's turn if it doesn't move out of the active somehow. So that will be what's considered as here we go. Does find this arena off this, so it's kind of on Jeremy again to say, can I disrupt your hand after you build everything up?
Jeremy's going to be a gentleman, and look at that, one with the 5-3.
You know what? I'll stick by what I said. I still think it's better to play the other way.
I mean, he kind of did what you said because he also went symmetrical somehow too, at least with like that side.
You know, I can actually get behind this compromise. This is fine. I'm okay with this. But more importantly, does have the poison damage coming back. But because of that Echoing Horn, can't use this Crobat to draw cards, and that might be a big deal because there's not much else going on. Can play the Temple of Sinnoh, poison this active Lugia, but what else is going to happen this turn? We already see Boss and Serena in hand. The Lugia V-Star is there as well. And Jeremy has taken 2 prizes, though, so we will definitely acknowledge that. That is important, but is it too little too late? I feel like at this point, even if Jeremy gets one of these 2 prize Pokemon knocked out on the bench, he just responds with a turn to this VMAX, and then what do you do?
Yeah, if there was damage on the other Lugia, I'd feel very confident that that Jeremy's going to close this out, but I guess there is an opportunity there where maybe Oliver does buy a little bit of time, and he is going to target down the Galarian Moltres, which is a nice Pokemon to start to work on. You're going to get the 2 prize cards, and you also avoid some of the awkwardness of extra energies being accelerated onto the board.
So I have to wonder there if you're Jeremy. I mean, playing Temple of Sinnoh down is good because it makes it a little bit more difficult to attach, but do you maybe want that after your opponent has used Storm Dive? Because they have such an easy way of removing that in play. Or Tempest Dive, excuse me. Sorry, it's Storm Dive in Japanese. That's legitimately how it's called, so I have to rework my brain to it. But it is Tempest Dive here, and that's what the card says. And Primal Turbo will be able to get these energies out. We did see the V-Guard energy get put onto the top of the deck with Primate Wisdom. And if that goes on the bench Lugia, that means that there will not be a potential to be knocked out by a Dread End, even with something like Galarian Zigzagoon to add that final 10 damage.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. We'll see what cards are going to be used in order to take this knockout. Looks like the V-Guard is going to be added on here.
So it is interesting to note, too, there are a lot of energies prized. The resources might not be there for Oliver to go into this fresh Lugia, but if you just make it easy for your opponent to try to take this knockout, it could definitely get dicey very quickly.
Well, I love that we're still seeing some table talk, both players having a good time here, but this is a really dangerous spot. We're down to just, we're under 14 minutes now. We've seen a situation where Jeremy could definitely still come out and win this game, and we could go into game 3, and I'm really worried about the clock right now.
Absolutely. So 2 prizes on this Lugia can be achieved by the knockout on the Eternus VMAX. We haven't talked about this either. Big Parasol is on this active, so that means...
I talked about it.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay. You know what? Big Parasol's there. That's what matters. Yveltal cannot take a knockout onto this Pokemon. As we'll get into this last few turns. This is the end game here. As things are going to start heating up very, very quickly. The bench space is now open with this knockout onto that Galarian Moltres. So Crobat can come down and draw some more cards. Does have the energy switch. I think that's what Jeremy's deciding. Do I want to maybe energy switch the energy off this Galarian Weezing to the Eternatus V on the bench and try to just draw an extra card this way? It seems like it makes the most sense to be able to just do that.
I don't think we're going to see the Galarian Weezing being used to full effect anytime soon, and even if it is, it's just one energy. So just move that on over. Get yourself in a situation where maybe the second Eternatus could do a little work here and draw some extra cards.
So 4 cards, what do we see? What is needed to find the knockout in the following turn? Does find some good cards for the following turn. Finds Eternatus VMAX, has the energy in hand for next turn, and the Choice Belt. So can still attach, did play the energy switch onto that. Also has Choice Belt and Switch, so we could see both of those potentially get played down, but you really don't want to give your opponent the easy option to use Yveltal this turn. And Jeremy is more than happy to do that. Take the knockout onto this active, go down to just 2 prize cards. We are at just over 11 minutes remaining in this match. But both players, I feel like, still have a shot in this, definitely for sure. Oh, looks like we're just confirming something here between both players. Just making sure we saw everything correctly. I didn't see anything over on my end.
Yeah, I don't know if we missed anything, but we'll go ahead and give the judge an opportunity here to look things over before we jump back into the rest of this.
So we're in an interesting spot here, right? Jeremy's going to go down to 2 prize cards left. Oliver still has access to not only the powerful Yveltal attacker, but also has access to this Lugia with a Choice Belt. Of course, cannot deal enough damage, will be 10 short even with 4 powerful energy, and we already, of course, saw one hit the discard pile the first turn, but the big card, I think, in Oliver's deck that's going to matter this turn is that Lost Vacuum, that 1 copy of Lost Vacuum.
Yeah, and you saw Jeremy already nod to that by playing down the Choice Belt. And if you see the Vacuum come down, it's going to go onto the Parasol. It's going to be to have that Yveltal potentially take a big knockout. And that all also depends on if Oliver was able to find the Aurora energies out of the prize cards. He's also just holding onto all these in his hand right now, so there's no way to get these into the deck in order to use them with the Archeops.
Wow, 5 energies it looks like in this hand. That is way too many. You could put 1 back with Primate Wisdom, but there's no card like Marnie in this hand right away. I mean, you can grab something like Luminion to play that, but it's so risky to put that Pokemon in play that can so easily be knocked out by this bench Eternatus VMAX.
Yeah, I think the supporter choice here is going to be important, but I don't know if there's a way to shuffle right now.
I'm not quite sure at this point. Does have Quick Ball, so that can grab the Luminion, can shuffle the deck up.
We know the answer is not research, so that's a great discard at this stage of the game.
If research gets played, yeah, that would, I think that we're probably going to game 3 at that point if research gets played. Does find the Pumpkaboo, so that is the out to discard Temple of Sinnoh. So that could be step number 1 to knocking out this Eternatus. Step 1, get rid of the Stadium card. Step number 2, play Lost Vacuum and get rid of Big Parasol. And step number 3, power up Yveltal, use that amazing destruction attack, and take the knockout. But the problem is, step 3 is pretty hard because not only do you not have Yveltal, but you also have 5 energy in your hand.
Yeah, I think the supporters are Bird Keeper, and I didn't see the other one, but I don't think it shuffles.
It might be 2 Bird Keeper, I think. Is it 2 Bird Keeper?
It might be.
I only see 1 on the list, so it can't be.
It will not, then.
It will not be 2 Bird Keeper, but does have Radiant Charizard, so because Jeremy is at 2 prize cards, this can potentially take a knockout onto a bench Pokemon. We do see Boss's Orders in hand, so okay. Oliver does have a shot at this game. Boss's Orders can bring up one of these 2 prize Pokemon on the bench and force Jeremy to have Boss's Orders to knock out this bench Lugia. Also would need to find, or also already has Choice Belt actually, so does not need the damage modifier. It's already there. But listen, Jeremy's already down 3 Crobat at this point. Believe potentially 1 is also in the discard pile. This could be a little sketchy going into this last couple of turns.
Yeah, this lines up fairly well with what Oliver's trying to do. We see that there's 4 prize cards left, so if you just remove one of these V Pokemon right now, you could target down perhaps the Eternatus and take the knockout there, and then you'll have one of these 3 Crobats in order to close out. Gonna decide which one to go for. Yeah, I think you go for the Eternatus V there, and we'll have plenty of ways to close out if the cards end up in the hand.
So here we go. Energy was already on the Archeops. See if there's a way to power up the Radiant Charizard in play. Has the Primal Turbo. Can go ahead and get the Heat Fire energy out, it looks like. And so here we go. We'll see exactly what happens between both of these. So the Capture Energy did find the Radiant Charizard this turn. Did that Heat Fire energy come down from the hand? Or I believe that was Primal Turbo out from the deck. So we have just seen it get flipped out here, though. So I believe the Capture Energy was played down this turn to grab Charizard, though, so I'm just double-checking, but...
Not terribly sure, but I'm going to trust the judges on this one to get the call right, and I believe that we will just go ahead and see this Radiant Charizard take the knockout here. Then Jeremy's going to have to find the right cards to close out here, and that combination is going to involve finding the boss's orders along with that Galarian Zigzagoon. He's got the choice belt already, and he could remove that Lugia and go ahead and move us into Game 3, and that needs to happen quick, as we see that there's just 7 minutes on the clock.
Quick indeed. That Charizard is going to be attacking for free for 1 fire energy thanks to that Excited Heart ability. So we go into the end game. Does he have the boss's orders? Top deck. Is it a boss? It is! Is that boss? Wait. Oh, I think they're checking. Wait, does he have boss? Did he just top deck it?
I don't know if he has the Galarian Zigzagoon though.
Oh, that's true.
And he also just brought up the other Eternatus, but
well, I think they're switching. I'm not sure, but I think was the capture and the. Ooh. Yeah, I think we're just checking right now with the capture and the. I think, again, a lot is happening here. A lot is happening between these players, but I'm trying to think about how the Radiant Charizard got into play, right? And the capture energy being on the Archeops. Could have been Primal Turbodon earlier, but regardless, our judging team's going to work things out, figure out what's happening between all these players, and we're going to get things settled. Of course, it's happening the most tense part, right?
Right.
Oh, he has the boss, too.
We need every second
he has
of this, and sure enough.
he had it. He topped like the boss. He found it at the top.
Good. Of course, the moment is just decimated by going over some semantics, but sure enough, Jeremy is able to close out here, but we got to shuffle. We got to get moving. There's 6 minutes left on the clock.
Listen, I know my favorite villain when I see it. When I saw Cyrus up the top of the deck, I said, that's boss's orders. You can't tell me differently. Big top deck. You saw him waving it around for good luck. Found boss's orders, so maybe there'll be a slight time extension. Remember, the 1 minute before in that judge call here, another minute and a half here. So let's say we've got about 8 minutes to play this game. Who knows? We've seen some tough draws early on in the beginning. We could still have a game here, Kyle.
We will see. I need both these players to shuffle very quickly. I want to see a winner. I don't care if it's Jeremy, but, you know, that'd be cool too. And both players certainly deserving of a potential day 2 berth. And we got to get moving.
We've got to go, go, go. We've got to get the job done now. And both of these players are getting ready to shuffle up and get into our last and final game. Yeah, 6 minutes on the clock. Do you think in this position, Jeremy's game plan is different to just not go for Weezing, or do you think it's essential to winning this matchup?
I think it buys you the time that you need to win. So I think you still have to go for it, sadly, and maybe you get a little bit of poison damage on the Lugia, a little bit of poison on the other, and sure enough, we did get a time extension, thankfully. Gonna at least go up to 7 minutes now. But even by the time we start this game and get rolling, if both players aren't playing quick enough, it's going to be a really tough one to close out.
So we'll figure out this conclusion in due time, of course. Oliver will most certainly be going first to start things out, which is a big advantage in time. You're going to be the first person to really attack in, unless Jeremy finds, we've talked a little bit about that Ascension coughing to be able to get that into the active spot, use Ascension, and ability lock Oliver. If Oliver has full reign to abilities, we see how quickly this can spiral out of control.
He's gonna mulligan again. No.
It's drawing and shuffling that's eating away the most amount of time at this game. It's just part of the Pokemon trading card game. 4 Pokemon the prizes, nothing too relevant. Crobat is a card that you always want to just have access to so you can dig through your deck, draw a few more cards. But just over 6 minutes now. I'm in the same boat as you. Like, listen, I want Jeremy to win because obviously I have bias in this, but I just want to see a winner.
I want to see a winner. Yeah.
I want a story to follow for day 2, right?
Yeah, this is tough. This is the worst way to watch the clock disappear. Is just the game just cannot be played. One more card. It is not a Pokemon again. We're gonna see more shuffling here. Oliver, I mean, he's got to be disappointed too. He knows what this means.
There's only one way this ends. There's multiple ways this ends, but one way this game is end. Judge ball for day 2? Listen, that's an exciting way, but unfortunately not the way we're going to be deciding how things conclude between both of these players. So, listen, it's the worst feeling too, and it's so possible that you like draw into your 7 cards and you have so many options to find a basic Pokemon, and then the last card or your hand is not playable. But this hand is playable.
We have a Pokemon.
Oliver. Hand, there is a Pokemon. There are search options. Got ourselves a game. Prize cards could also be a big deal in the situation. we see the Boss's Orders prize. That is a card that could be relevant. And here we go, starting things out. Galarian Sneasler in the active spot, not coughing like you want to start things out. As a perfect hand here for Oliver, by the way. I believe double evolution incense rather, and an Ultra Ball, exactly what you want to see on turn 1.
Yep, and of course, hopefully we'll see some quick play from both these players right now. Of course, play your strategy out, get the cards down, and do what you're supposed to do, but do it as quickly as possible.
Put a little bit of hustle in your bustle, you know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm talking about.
Go a little fast, and that's going to be important. So, I mean, you do still have to check your deck, sort of, but I actually don't even think you check your deck at this point.
Nope.
I think you're just finding both your Pokemon, and you're playing it out. No one wants to go in at 5-2-2, but this is the position we're in. We're getting into the last game, and I mean, you got to play to what you got to play to, but come on, you're so close to day 2. You're 1 game away. You gotta just go, go, go.
Yeah, this is the difference that we've spoken about so often. It's just understanding where you are in the game, and of course you need to know your opponent, know the matchup, but you got to know what's going on with the clock right now, and there's not a lot of time left. And at least we do see the Ultra Ball now come down, double Archeops into the discard pile. The Lugia is down. This is exactly what you need, but you need time to close out here, and there's not enough V Pokemon in the world if you have no minutes on the clock.
So a perfect start here for Oliver. Has the Ultra Ball, discard both Archeops in hand, searched out with the Evolution Incense, has an attachment for turn, and a Marnie to follow up the following turn. It's going to be on Jeremy. Can he find the pieces that are necessary and needed? Yep, make sure both of our V-Star markers are good. Primate Wisdom can put the Marnie to the top to make sure that's available for next turn. Has the attachment as well. None of these energies you really want to put down, but it's probably okay to just throw one of these energies down into play. And it looks like that's it. And I think Jeremy, just shaking his head, knows that, like, there's nothing really that's happening at this spot. Does have the Ultra Ball, so this can grab something like the Galarian, or rather the Coughing. It's a little bit confusing because Coughing just evolves into Galarian Wheezing, so
right.
it's a little mix and match.
Well, we do see the Ultra Ball here. I think there's a pile of evolutions in the hand right now, which is exactly what you don't want to see in your opener. You'd love to have all those basic Pokemon come down, empty the entire hand, play that Crobat V, use the Dark Asset ability, and draw all the way up. Instead, has the hand that you want on the second turn. He's going to have to make something of this here, and it's got 2.5 minutes to get the job done, too.
We're playing nice and slow here, getting into these last couple of minutes. We'll most likely see this Coughing get grabbed. Missing the switch, though, that's the big piece that Jeremy needs to find. Is playing just a few copies, 3 copies of Switch in the deck to move this out of the active spot. And it looks like we'll be going back into the deck. Has the Dark Energy, has Temple of Sinnoh, can even potentially throw the Choice Belt onto this Pokemon just to thin it out of the deck. Choosing not to, opting to have it later. It was a card that was necessary to win the game later on. And the Judge, and this is Jeremy's hope here. Does Judge essentially not allow Oliver to draw into any of the cards necessary, like the Lugia V-Star, to get the Summoning Star off? Oliver did have a very powerful turn 1, discarding these Archeops, so there's not much needed, especially if Jeremy is not able to find the switch here. Does have access to 4 cards, does have access to potentially a Crobat, so it is still very doable. Is playing 3 copies, and there are none in the prize cards. Yeah,
but we need to see a draw pass situation here from Oliver, basically, for Jeremy to have the time to close things out. But you can see how it gets done here. If you use the Ascension, then eventually you have the Galarian Wheezing. You shut off all the abilities. The Sneasler helps the math as the Oranguru would be knocked out going into your turn, and then maybe you have a huge knockout lined up on the Lugia.
So there's the Ultra Ball. This can thin the hand down to 0 after this Galarian Moltres V is benched in the hand. Can find the Crobat, and these are big 6 cards for Jeremy. Does Jeremy, at minimum, find Eternatus to stay in this game to make sure that the bench can be extended and the game can be played out the following turn? Or do we see the switch card as well to be able to bring this Coughing into the active spot? This is what Jeremy's got to do. Dire Flame Wings, bringing the energy back onto it. And here we go. Dark Asset, big 6 cards for Crobat. Do we see the switch? And there it is, found the switch.
Wow.
Has Forest Seal Stone as well. That's a turn 1 Ascension. That's exactly what you want to see here if you're Jeremy, but the time is already winding down.
Yep, this is going to be a tough one to close out on. Just 30 seconds remaining. This is such a strong opener here. Have your opponent on 4 cards. Going to be able to get the Galarian Wheezing out here on turn number 1, along with the Temple of Sinnoh locking down 2. You've got the Forest Seal Stone as well, and it's gonna look like checkmate, but you don't have enough time to take the king.
So as long as Oliver draws a card in the next 10 seconds, there is still a potential way for Jeremy to win this game, but I don't know if it's going to happen. No, I don't think so. He's shuffling
He's
the
gonna
deck.
shuffle. No.
Does he draw to start? No, it looks like time was just called. And yeah, just clarifying, Jeremy will be turn 0, Oliver will be turn 1. And with that being said, there's no way for anything to happen. It looks like just gonna play things out at this point, maybe see. Sometimes players will base off something like the board state or whatever based off of what's happening in a game. So we'll see where things end at these last 3 games. Maybe you viewers at home, tell us who you think would win in a position like this.
Yeah, get out there and use that social media platform.
What was it again? Do you know the hashtag again?
Hashtag play Pokemon. Use it all weekend long and let us know who you're rooting for and who you think would have closed this one out here. As don't think we're going to actually see a winner right now. It's maybe that's the curse of putting casters on for round 9.
We're going to have to try a 3rd time to see if we can get a winner. We're running a
well,
little
I mean, we had a
experiment.
winner, but it just wasn't Chip.
Okay, a winner who is the caster who we put on stream. So we'll see right now. Looking like it might be 1-1 for our caster friends in our matches of round 9, but who knows, maybe there's a trick up my sleeve or trick up Jeremy's sleeve or Oliver's sleeve that we don't know about. Oliver does get the potential to take 2 turns, but actually already took turn number 1. So each player will have 1 turn left of this game. Jeremy can potentially take some prize cards this turn with combination of energy switch and an attachment, plus a way to get this Galarian Wheezing out of the active. And Crobat's a good way to start that out, drawing up to 6 cards.
Yeah, Jeremy's turn 0 was pretty sad. It was his opponent shuffling his deck after he shuffled. But that's how it goes sometimes, and this is the one turn that he has to do something here.
Yeah, as soon as the Capture Energy benched the Lugia anyways, it would not have mattered with how it worked. But it was pretty much judge and pray and play quick enough that your opponent doesn't know what's happening. Opponent has no clue. They're going to know what's happening, hopefully, on their board. But it doesn't look like there's even a switch card at this point. Just has to pass the turn over, or rather, going to utilize that Severe Poison. And I actually don't think the knockout even happens because turn is after this, so there's no in between.
Yeah, you check for knockout, and it's there's not even another turn there.
Yeah. So just because we're just clarifying here, no way for each player to win this game. So that is how it works, and both players are just kind of looking at each other, being like, "Is this what's happening?"
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Oliver and Jeremy, this is what's happening. Neither player has finished this 3rd game out. No prizes have been taken either. It's going to be a tie, it looks like, between both of our competitors.
Yep, not much left there from Oliver. He did have that Marnie in hand, but I would have to have seen a lot of strong cards in order to come out and close this thing out here. Both players just going to have a conversation.
Wow, Jeremy conceded the game.
Wow.
To Oliver. What great sportsmanship. I'm going to say it. I'm going to, right here, that is Jeremy showing excellent sportsmanship. Giving up the win in a position where I would even consider him in that position favored if Oliver didn't find
100%.
a way out of that active lock. And Oliver is going to be our winner. Maybe not through our time rule, but Jeremy's going to be a good sport, concede the match. So I thought we were going to be 0-1 going into this. We're now 0-2 with casters in our matches, but at least Jeremy was a good sport about it. That was a great match between both these players. We haven't got to feature a turn of this, even though it's the 6th most popular deck being played today. We got to see its action, being able to slow the game down super, super quickly on the 1st turn or the 2nd turn of the game, and ability lock, poison some Pokemon, take some prizes, and then say, hey, I start with my 4 prizes, you start with your 6 prizes. Let's play Pokemon now. I think I'm comfortable with where I'm at.
Yeah, we can definitely see what Jeremy was going for. Had a fantastic setup there in game number 3, but just not enough time to close things out. Not going to win the game, but hopefully he won some hearts at home. Those, it's definitely a very impressive move there.